Russia is ready for peace with Ukraine, but Russian President Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin spoke out saying that he hopes the war with Ukraine can stop so that peace can be achieved. This was conveyed by Putin in his statement during a visit to a military hospital in Russia, Monday, the 1st of January 2024. In televised remarks, Putin said he was satisfied with Russia's military performance in Ukraine. Putin assesses that the Russian military is capable of holding the strategic initiative on the front lines of war. Meanwhile, Ukraine, as the opposing party, is considered to be gradually diminishing its strength. Nevertheless, Putin said that he wanted the war with Ukraine to end. He doesn't want Russia to fight endless war with Ukraine, so he wants peace. We also want to end this conflict, and as soon as possible. Only on our terms, said Putin, as reported by Bloomberg on Monday, the 1st of January 2024. He did not specify what terms or conditions must be met for the Russian-Ukrainian war to end. Russia currently occupies about a fifth of Ukraine's territory. The Kremlin's confidence in the war has grown amid political divisions in the United States and the European Union over support for Ukraine. Ukraine's counteroffensive has also made little progress. Now, Russian troops are trying to continue advancing in eastern Ukraine, namely Donetsk and Kharkiv. Russia warns Japan after supplying Patriot air defense systems to Ukraine. Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova said Japan's move to supply the Patriot air defense system to Ukraine would have serious consequences for Russia-Japan relations on Wednesday, the 27th of December 2023. Relations between Russia and Japan, already difficult, have deteriorated sharply since Russia sent tens of thousands of troops and invaded Ukraine in February 2022. Japan has joined its Western allies in imposing massive economic sanctions on Russia. Meanwhile, Japan said it would prepare to send Patriot air defense missiles to the United States, U.S., after revising its arms export guidelines last week. According to CNA, this is Tokyo's first major overhaul of export restrictions in 9 years. Although Japan's new export controls still prevent arms shipments to countries at war, he said they could indirectly benefit Ukraine in its war with Russia by giving the U.S. extra capacity to provide military aid to Kyiv. The Japanese lost control of weapons that Washington can now use to do whatever it wants. It cannot be ruled out that based on the scheme that has been tested, Patriot missiles will land in Ukraine, Zakharova said. According to him, such a scenario would be interpreted as an act of hostility towards Russia and would have major consequences for Japan in the context of bilateral relations. Meanwhile, Japan and South Korea deployed jets to monitor joint flights of Chinese and Russian bombers and fighters near their territory earlier this month. Russia and Japan have not reached a formal agreement to end hostilities in World War II due to a long-standing territorial dispute involving a chain of Pacific islands known in Japan as the Northern Territories and in Russia as the Southern Kurils. Before the Ukraine conflict, Japan had complained about Russia's increasing military deployment on the islands, which the Soviet Union seized from Japan at the end of World War II. Ukraine war. Russia hits back after Kyiv attack on border city. Ukraine has come under attack by Russian airstrikes again, officials say, after 2 days of major aerial assaults by both sides. Most attacks were concentrated on Kharkiv in the east, but explosions were also reported elsewhere. Moscow said it was retaliating against Ukrainian strikes on the Russian border city of Belgorod on Saturday, which killed at least 24 people. That came after Russia carried out airstrikes across Ukraine on Friday. Kyiv said those Russian attacks, which killed at least 45 people, were the biggest missile bombardment of the war so far. The latest Russian strikes happened as Ukraine entered its final day of 2023. Russia's defense ministry said the attack on Kharkiv, including on a hotel, was a direct response to Saturday's strikes on Belgorod, and that it had used high-precision missiles to hit military targets in the city. However, Ukraine says not a single military facility was hit. A defense ministry spokesperson told local media that Russia deliberately hit civilian infrastructure to cause as much damage as possible. On Sunday, Ukraine's Air Force reported it had destroyed 21 of 49 Russian drones launched overnight, with most attacks aimed at the Kharkiv, Kherson, Mykolaiv, and Zaporizhia regions. Ukraine's air defense systems in the region surrounding the capital Kyiv were also engaged late on Saturday to repel a Russian drone attack, the military administration of the region said on Telegram. The regional governor of Kharkiv said that 28 people had been hurt after at least 6 missiles hit the city near the border with Russia overnight. Ukraine's Interior Ministry also reported damage to 12 blocks of flats, 13 homes, hospitals, a hotel building, a kindergarten, commercial premises, a gas pipeline, and cars. These are not military facilities but cafes, residential buildings, and offices, Kharkiv's mayor Ihor Turikov said on Telegram. On the eve of the new year, the Russians want to intimidate our city, but we are not scared. We are unbreakable and invincible. In the southern region of Kherson, the governor also reported 2 people killed by Russian shelling. The latest attacks come after a deadly couple of days in Ukraine and Russia. Russia's massive bombardment of Ukraine on Friday killed dozens and injured nearly 160. Several cities were attacked, including the capital, Kyiv. Kyiv's military administration chief Serhiy Popko said on Sunday that more bodies have been recovered from the rubble of a warehouse that was hit by an airstrike, taking the total number of people killed in airstrikes on the city to 22, and the overall death toll across Ukraine from Friday's attacks to at least 45. Even before more people were pulled out of the wreckage, the city's mayor Vitaly Klitschko had described the attacks as the deadliest day so far for civilians in the city. Saturday saw Ukrainian attacks on southwest Russia, near the border with Ukraine, which a Ukrainian security source told the BBC was a response to Russia's terrorist attacks on Ukrainian cities and civilians. The regional governor for Belgorod said on Sunday that 24 people were now known to have died in the attack. Vyacheslav Gladkov says 4 children were among the dead in what was one of the deadliest attacks on Russia since it invaded Ukraine. More than 100 people were also injured in the attacks on Belgorod city, the region's administrative capital near the border. The Ukrainian security source said more than 70 drones had been launched against Russian targets. Addressing the situation in Belgorod, they blamed civilian casualties on the incompetent work of Russian air defense, saying this was what caused falling fragments. Moscow has repeatedly accused Ukraine of being behind drone strikes in recent months. Kyiv rarely admits to such attacks across the border, although it has carried out strikes like this before. At a UN Security Council meeting requested by Russia to discuss Kyiv's strikes on Saturday, several countries stressed that Russia was paying the price for invading Ukraine and starting the war. If Russia wants someone to blame for the deaths of Russians in this war, it should start with President Putin, the British envoy to the UN Thomas Phipps said. Russia targets Ukraine military sites in retaliation for Belgorod attack. Russia says it has targeted Ukrainian military sites in the capital Kyiv and Kharkiv in a new wave of drone and missile attacks in days, in retaliation for a deadly attack a day earlier on the city of Belgorod. The Russian Defense Ministry said on Sunday it had struck decision-making centers and military installations in the northeastern city of Kharkiv, after Kyiv said that residential buildings, a hotel and cafes had been hit. In the first wave of overnight attacks, at least 6 missiles hit Kharkiv, Ukraine's national police said on Sunday, injuring at least 22 people and hitting 12 apartment buildings, 13 residential houses, and a kindergarten. Most drones were aimed at Ukraine's first line of defense, as well as at civilian, military, and infrastructure in the Kharkiv, Kherson, Mykolaiv, and Zaporizhia regions, the Ukrainian Air Force said, adding that it destroyed 21 out of 49 attack drones. Earlier, Ukrainian officials said that among those injured in Kharkiv were 2 boys aged 14 and 16 and a security advisor for a team of German journalists. Closer to midnight, as part of a wider bombardment of Ukraine that also targeted Kyiv, several waves of Russian drones hit residential buildings in Kharkiv center, spouting fires, the mayor of Kharkiv, Ukraine's second-largest city, said.